Welcome to the Naga Chronicles podcast. I'm Srimukh Duvvuri, author of The Serpent Prince. In today's episode, writing morally grey characters from mythology. One of the things that drew me to Hindu mythology in the first place, and to the Mahabharata in particular, is that it refuses to give you easy answers. There are no pure heroes. There are no pure villains. Everyone is complicated, and the text expects you to sit with that discomfort. That approach shaped everything about how I write characters in The Serpent Prince. The Mahabharata's moral complexity. Consider the Pandavas, the so-called heroes of the Mahabharata. Yudhishthira, the eldest, is the embodiment of Dharma. He's also the guy who gambled away his wife. Arjuna is the greatest warrior of his age. He's also the guy who helped burn down an entire forest full of living beings, including Nagas, to satisfy a god's hunger. Now consider the Kauravas, the so-called villains. Duryodhana is jealous, proud, and ruthless. He's also a generous friend, a loyal son, and a skilled warrior who in some readings has a legitimate claim to the throne. The Mahabharata doesn't tell you who to root for. It shows you flawed people making difficult choices under impossible circumstances, and it asks you to think about what Dharma, right action, actually looks like when the answers aren't obvious. Applying this to Naga characters. When I sat down to create the characters for the Serpent Prince, I kept coming back to the Nagas in the mythology and how none of them fit neatly into boxes. Takshaka killed a king. Was he wrong? The king's ancestor burned Takshaka's home. Was that wrong? Janamejaya tried to exterminate all Nagas in response. Was that wrong? Each act of violence has a justification, and each justification creates the conditions for the next act of violence. I wanted my characters to live in that same space. Characters who do things the reader might disagree with, but for reasons the reader can understand. Characters whose worst actions come from their best qualities pushed too far. Loyalty becoming tribalism, justice becoming vengeance, caution becoming cowardice. The craft of grey characters. Writing morally grey characters is harder than writing heroes or villains. Here's what I've learned. Give every character a legitimate grievance. If a character is angry, make sure their anger makes sense. If a character does something harmful, make sure the reader understands the wound that drove them to it. You don't have to justify the action. You have to justify the emotion behind it. Let your protagonist be wrong. This is the hardest one for YA fiction, where readers often expect the main character to be the moral compass. But a protagonist who is always right is a boring protagonist. Let them make mistakes. Let them hold beliefs that are challenged and sometimes proven wrong. That's where growth comes from. Resist the urge to redeem everyone. Not every grey character needs an arc that ends in goodness. Some people double down. Some people make peace with their choices. Some people never get the redemption scene, and that's okay. The mythology doesn't redeem Takshaka. He is who he is. There's a power in that. Show the cost. Every choice in the Mahabharata has consequences. The Pandavas win the war, but they lose almost everyone they love. Victory doesn't feel like victory. When your morally grey characters make their choices, show what those choices cost them and the people around them. That's what makes the greyness real. Why it matters for young readers. Some people think YA fiction should present clear moral lessons. I disagree. Young readers are smarter and more nuanced than we give them credit for. They live in a complicated world. They deal with conflicting loyalties, imperfect authority figures, and situations where there's no clean right answer. Giving them characters who reflect that complexity isn't confusing, it's validating. It says, the world is messy, and you're not wrong for noticing. The Mahabharata has been doing this for thousands of years. The tradition of morally complex storytelling isn't new, it's ancient. I'm just trying to carry it forward. Thanks for listening to the Naga Chronicles podcast. Follow me on Instagram at Srimukh Duvvuri, and check out The Serpent Prince, a YA fantasy based on Hindu mythology. See you next time.